All right, let's dive into a story that is part history, part detective novel. And it asks a really uncomfortable question. What if a town's most treasured possession was a complete and total lie? You know, every town has its monuments, its local legends, but what happens when one tiny detail, something that's been hiding in plain sight for 50 years, suddenly threatens to bring the whole story crashing down? So, to really get why this is such a huge deal, we have to start with the legend itself. This is the official story of the Silver Tree of Broken Hill, an object that's been the heart of this town's pride for generations. And here it is. For half a century, it's been sitting there, proudly displayed. It's supposed to be a symbol of the town's silver mining roots, its whole pioneering spirit. Believe me, this thing is way more than just an object. It's practically a piece of the town's soul. And the official plaque, right there in the museum, well, it lays out the story perfectly. It's a masterpiece, right? Pure silver, made by a famous jeweler with a history that goes all the way back to the 19th century. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better backstory for a town treasure. And this timeline just cements the whole thing. From its creation and big debut at an exhibition, to being bought by the town's founder, a guy named Charles Rasp, and then finally being acquired by the city. Every single step just seems to lock in its authentic, deep connection to Broken Hill's history. But then, that perfectly polished history hit a major snag. And it all kicked off with an observation so simple, so almost childish, that it changed absolutely everything. See this little guy on top? He's the hero of the whole story. He's supposed to be Charles Rasp himself, the boundary rider who struck it rich and founded the town. But take a really close look at his horse. So, get this. A researcher is just putting together a little counting game for kids, and she stops. She's staring at the horse. Something about the way it's moving. It just doesn't look right for a real horse. What do you see? And boom, there it is, the aha moment. A real horse doesn't gallop like that. Its front and back legs are stretched out at the same time, this stiff parallel motion. It's a toy. It's a rocking horse. And the source puts it perfectly. Once seen, it cannot be unseen. That one little detail just blows the whole story wide open. And once that first crack appeared, the whole thing started to fall apart. Suddenly, all these other weird details started jumping out. Like, why is this central figure holding a snake? And why are all the little figurines totally different sizes, like they're from 6 different model sets? Even the silver itself wasn't the fancy Sturming silver you'd expect. Nope, it was lower purity trade silver. The rocking horse, that was just the tip of the iceberg. So you have to ask, how on earth did a story with so many obvious flaws become the gospel truth for so long? To figure that out, the source material draws this absolutely fascinating parallel to something the whole world knows. It's kind of wild, right? Both of these stories, the Da Vinci Code and the Silver Tree, they follow the exact same playbook. You start with this amazing fact that people really, really want to believe, but hiding underneath is a fatal flaw. Forged documents in one case, a toy horse from the wrong century in the other, that points to a much more modern and much more, well, fake origin. Think about it. The whole Da Vinci Code thing shows you just how easy it is to spin a good story into what feels like a fact. You have a con man's lie, which gets picked up as a historical possibility, which then gets turned into a blockbuster novel that claims it's all true. The mechanism is identical. A great story is just more powerful than the boring old evidence. Okay, so if the official story is out, what's the real story? Well, this new theory brings 2 very interesting characters out of the woodwork. 2 guys who had the motive, the means, and the opportunity to pull this whole thing off. First up, let's meet our craftsman, Henry Brueggemann. He's the only guy in town who could have actually made this thing. And here's the key. He probably had a whole box of old practice pieces from his apprentice days just lying around, all made from that cheaper trade silver, and all in different scales. And then you have the showman, Jack Wicks. This guy was a slick retailer who totally understood the power of a story. He'd even been to the US to learn the latest marketing tricks. He wasn't just selling objects, he was selling legends. So here's how the alleged scheme went down. Around 1945, Brueggemann takes his old box of scraps and assembles them into this quirky tree. Then Jack Wicks works his magic. He doesn't sell it as a new piece. Oh no, he announces the fortunate rediscovery of a lost masterpiece from 1880. He even sold commemorative brooches. Can you believe it? It was a marketing masterstroke that created an instant local legend out of thin air. And this brings us to what might be the most fascinating question in this entire saga. It's not just about who did it, but more about why did everyone fall for it for so long? I mean, seriously, think about it. The rocking horse, the clashing scales, the weird snake thing, none of this was hidden. It was sitting right there on public display. So how, for 50 years, did nobody see it? Well, the source material points to this idea from psychology, sometimes called the five-monkey experiment. Basically, the idea is that a group can enforce a rule long after anyone remembers why the rule was created in the first place. For Broken Hill, the rule became the silver tree is an 1879 masterpiece. That story just got passed down and down until everyone accepted it, no questions asked. And in a small, tight-knit town, that effect is 1,000 times stronger. The silver tree became part of the town's identity. So if you question the tree, you weren't just questioning an object. You were questioning the town's history, its founder, its very pride. It became a social taboo, which basically made that little rocking horse completely invisible. And if you want to know just how powerful a good story can be, look at this number, $500,000. That's the current insured value. Whether it was made in 1879 or 1945, the story is what gives it that value. The legend literally became worth a fortune. In the end, this whole Silver Tree saga is so much more than a local mystery. It's a huge reminder that history isn't just a set of facts, it's a story, and stories can be shaped. It really makes you want to take a second look at the monuments and treasures in our own towns and ask, what are we really seeing and what have we been taught not to see?